Hello and welcome all to 3-4 streamers of you, maybe more later. It's awesome that you guys are already here. We are PeakD&D. To my lookers left, I have Nick there in the middle and Max there on the far side joining me tonight. This is kind of in lieu of, this is our second live stream, and this is kind of in lieu of our video that we usually put out on Wednesdays, on every other Wednesday, which is Talking Fae, which is when we do our talk back of our last two episodes of gameplay, which a lot happened in the last two episodes of gameplay, if I am not mistaken. So I think we're gonna kind of talk through that a little bit. If you have any questions or comments or whatnot, throw them in the chat, and we can talk to those talking points. But yeah, what happened? What happened during that game, Nick? What happened?
And why are you so mean?
Oh, I'm not mean. If I were mean, we would have had the consequences for death and resurrection conversation after Ben had already died, from a position of, we'll say, strength. All right, what happened? So you guys made it to Semberhome, the elven community up north in the Cormanthier Forest, a little bit south of Mithranor, which is probably your ultimate goal. You got attacked in a fruit market and handily dealt with that, and that was that might have been the session prior,
Perhaps.
but ultimately you guys decided to check out the plot, which was at the Autumn Blossom, an inn, a very fancy inn where it turns out all the Matrides are Nazis. So you guys got into a great big fight, despite your efforts to be subtle and discreet. And then some bad stuff happened. Max, you want to take it from there?
I just don't know how they saw through our incredibly clever ruse and disguise but we can get to that here in a moment. So yeah, then at the appointed time, we were supposed to meet in the garden, and then instead of having our meeting, we got jumped by a bunch of Nazi elves in the Silent Garden. We were severely outnumbered, and things got real bad.
Really fast.
You know, Ben's dad, Jastian's dad, good old Lionel, showed up and decided to cleave his bastard son's head in twain, killing him and becoming the rightful possessor and wielder of the Dark Moon, an evil moonblade from Nazi elves bent on purity and keeping bloodlines, pure.
Not these half elves over here.
Yeah, no, not like Ben. And so, I really wanted to help him, but I had to escape with my life because I was in danger as well. So I flew away. And then, Tony, do you want to pick it up from there?
Yeah, I mean, towards the end there, so this is the second half, episode 44, I guess, is where we picked up with Jastian getting his head cleaved permanently. We left on the cliffhanger in 43. And then Gord went into panic mode and restore mode. So he just eventually was like, we need to get out of here. Grabbed Jastian and Gorman, grabbed the broom of flying. We went to our room first, I guess. We kind of flee to our room. Max kind of hung back to see if anything was going to happen. Illinsworth did. And then I took Jastian. We thought we were going to meet at the tavern, but I just took him straight to the temple and woke up the priest to resurrect Jastian because that's what Gord wanted to do. He wanted to save his friend. But we ended up getting him back on his feet, and then we went to bed at the Drunken Flumph to wake up anew and changed.
Well, some of you slept that night.
Some of us slept that night. I couldn't imagine the splitting headache that Jastian was feeling all night long. So... Yeah, it was nuts. I'm surprised, to be honest, going back to the beginning. I don't know really, honestly, how we didn't think that they wouldn't see through our disguise, because it wasn't great.
I think the disguise was all right. I think the alias is where we went wrong. Correct me if I am wrong,
yes.
Nick.
I mean, that was a clue. But just in the interest of full disclosure, they did know that you were going to eventually come.
Right. So no matter what guise we would have come under, they would have been expecting and waiting for us.
I mean, you could have fooled them. It might have taken magic that you don't have access to, but it was theoretically possible.
Gotcha. It was on the table for sure. I do remember, if I recall, Max, your rolls for deception weren't great walking into that bar, walking into that tavern, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I could have done more research into the actual names of elven nobility and royalty, and not just assuming it was based on the number of apostrophes.
I mean, but it is.
That might have helped a tiny bit.
Fair enough. And me, just as a bodyguard, I don't know what came over me, but that was one of my favorite Gord moments.
Manservant.
Oh, that was delightful.
Was when I had to fake a fake accent through another fake accent. And
that's one of the finest D&D role-playing challenges you can have. I love it. A character with an accent trying
to fake another accent. And I just looked like an idiot to the concierge, so that was wonderful. Sure, they didn't see right through that one.
But she was a Nazi anyway, so
very true.
Who cares?
Who cares? More for the ruse persona that we were trying to keep up with.
Yes.
Was the bummer. But how did you come up with not precisely the moment, but like, so Lionel was supposed to be there the whole time, yes? Invisible in one way or another?
Lionel was waiting, hoping that you guys would catch up and he'd get his shot to kill Jastian.
Yeah. It's crazy how that the encounter went, how spaced out we ended up being.
And that is kind of my fault. I
for sure.
kind of want that. So basically, like, I went into this like, okay, so Lionel's plan is to kill Jastian to appease the evil spirit of the Dark Moon and be chosen as a worthy wielder. So he also knows who you guys are, at least in the broad sense. He has witnessed you fighting and knows generally what you can do. So he wanted to try and get everyone spread out so that he would be away from his healer. And so the initial first few phases of that fight spread you out, gave you more targets and new places. And by the time that you realized that the new targets were actually quite dangerous, Jastian had already taken most of his hit points in damage. And that's when Invisible Daddy comes to finish off the job. So their plan went more or less as expected. Your plan less so, but that's the game, right?
And I return to my comment about you being mean. That's a well thought out bad guy plan right there.
I mean, sometimes my bad guys are well thought out. If you were up against a big scary hobgoblin named Thrud who just wanted to punch people, he would have came over and just punched you. And
but you see, your plans are, like well hatched. Ours are definitely half-assed, and so Well,
I have the advantage of prep time.
Therein.
That's very true. But that also brings up the point for DMs in general of like you had that scenario planned out for us to be separated, but there was certainly a alternate reality that we did not get separated.
Sure.
Did you have was Lionel going to pop up anyway, no matter what, at some point, even if we were
I mean, if Lionel just could not get to Jastian, he would not have, tried to get Jastian.
Or even shown himself at that point?
No. I mean, he had a game plan. He minimized the amount of potential problems in the plan by trying to make sure nobody knew he was there until he was already doing the thing he came here to do. Having said that, I mean, that plan could certainly have failed. If somebody had thought to cast see invisibility, or if, I don't know, if there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong. There are things that can go wrong in any plan. I mean, there's no perfect ironclad, the party will never survive this plan. And if there was, it'd be really, really mean to
especially this party. We tend to survive through a lot of things we probably shouldn't.
No, you guys are damn persistent at dying. I thought at not dying, rather. I thought for sure I would have gotten somebody before this point, but no, it took me till level 6 to kill someone. So not bad. Fair play to you guys.
Why, thank you. I will certainly take the compliment. I know there is, I've certainly left sessions in the past, right? Thinking like, oh man, we should have done this, or if only we could have done that, and oh, this would have been so much better. Despite how poorly our plan went, I in no way found myself having any thoughts of that. Like, I couldn't think of a way
I would second that,
we could have done. Okay, well, there was the big lead into the question that you just answered.
Fair.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I can't think of anything else that we could have done.
I mean, you were in the situation you were in, and by the time you realized just how perilous it was, stuff had already gone down. Sometimes, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing from a storytelling perspective. Like, the heroes should find themselves in over their goddamn heads every so often. It's really, a way to keep things dynamic. If it's just one curb stomp after another, well, that's kind of unsatisfying in the same way that just getting your teeth knocked in every single week will be unsatisfying, I think.
For sure. And to that point, like, I think that's maybe what Max was kind of getting at too, is like, I've never felt overwhelmed in anything that we've been thrown yet necessarily. Mm-hmm. And I would also say that, like, I think we feel that way, Max, that we left that session like, oh, I could have done this or we could have done that. And I think we didn't feel that way precisely because we played good combat within our characters, like, as we would have. Like, none of us made a weird decision that was kind of off, I guess, except for Jashian trying to be a spider. That's the only weird thing that we've never really worked with before. And then he got blinded.
That wasn't completely out of left field. I mean, Jashian likes to sit in the back and shoot lasers where people can't get to him. Generally, things go very, very wrong.
How did he get blinded again? What went on?
It was he blew a save. I think it was the members of the Eldrith Veluthra that were in the courtyard and throwing spells.
Right.
I think one of the spells they threw at him had a chance to blind if he failed to save.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of what it ended up being, but because that didn't help, that he just was kind of like, hello, and like went the other way, where he could have easily ended up just going straight or towards me rather than away from me. And that's what, like, that was the last separation that happened that basically led to his demise at that point.
Unfortunate, but it's not as though it was a guaranteed thing that you would have been able to stop him even if you were all standing there. It was still a pretty solid plan on their part. And
we were well outnumbered more than any other fight that we've been in.
Yeah, that you had numbers working against you on that one. That first round where we called them cultists showed up and just all cast Searing Light at the same target. That's a really rough opener. That would have bound to put any adventuring party on the back foot if they target one guy with every damage dealing spell they've got. That's tough.
Yeah, that's why we focus fire, to make it tough on them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, because you mentioned the Eldrath Veluthra.
There you go.
Where your motivation, your creative motivation and inspiration came for the Nazi elf cult.
Okay, well, the first thing I'll say is that it is a thing in the Forgotten Realms. It's not something that I made up entirely out of whole cloth.
Cool.
As awesome as that would be. But I find I take a lot from the D&D books that I read, the organizations that exist in the world and are on the table and are canon, in as much as that means anything at all in the universe. So I do like to work within those things, and I think it's a lot of fun to do it. But I specifically landed on this particular bugbear, as it were, as a result of our initial Into the Fey offerings. When we put these characters together, it kind of grew out of Jastian's father is a real big racist jerk, and it just so happens there's this convenient organization of racist jerk elves who have this magic sword that, you know, can do all sorts of cool stuff. And I figured when pretty early on that is where I wanted to take this, that Jastian's dad being an absolute jerk was something that we were gonna have to have some kind of payoff for. But I decided that it would be more fun to tie that into the larger story I wanted to do about Myth Draenor and some of the stuff that lies sleeping there. So it just ended up being a really neat bridge to the place I wanted to be and the story I wanted to get into. So that's pretty much the origin story of this leg of the campaign. It's chasing Jastian's racist asshole dad into the ruins of Myth Draenor and the Shadow Enclave.
Yeah, and his racist asshole friends. So when you
That's
say D&D books, do you mean fiction books? Do you mean like different D&D source guides from previous editions, or all of it?
I do read. I'm mostly referring to source manuals, to be honest. I do read the occasional bit of, you know, I read the Drizzt books, the R.A. Salvador books. I've read the occasional Elminster book against my better judgment.
Okay.
And it's I really just. So the books are actually designed for this, right? I mean, they're designed to make you think of cool stories that you want to play using all these rules they're selling you. And I take a lot from those books. The source manuals, I read those just for funsies when I'm bored. And I'm glad I do, because it makes me a much better TM, because I have a lot more cockamamie, half-formed ideas up here that I can kind of focus up on and turn into compelling gameplay.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. If you figure like every, you know, like the network of connections, right? So if you just got all of this scatter plot of just random cults that exist, then
the more nodes you have, I mean, the more possible connections you can make. So yeah, read your manuals, kids. It's really fun.
Yeah, that is entirely true. I would have to say too, I think all of the near deaths that we experienced so far in Into the Fey and this campaign, i.e., I guess Illensworth's closest, we were able to save him before he died. But my closest was I had a failsafe built in. I had a nice amber airbag from Oberon. And then now Jastian died. Legit died. But there was also kind of a failsafe within the town, being the priest. As far as Nick being mean, I mean, he put the little nudge there that, like, hey, if someone dies, like, you have the means to do it. Is that something with these particular characters that you've tried to at least throw in there for us, or is that just something you would do normally?
I mean, I joke a lot about, I can't wait to kill a player, but honestly, it's not really a desirable end unto itself for me, really. It's more of a means to an end. What narrative weight can this death carry, and how would this motivate, change the party's outlook and motivate them to run in the direction of adventure? So, yeah, I hope that sort of trapezoidally answered your question. I kind of got all rambly there for a minute.
No, no, that's all good. I do think it definitely changed us in some ways, and I would say for Jastian number 1, he changed right away. Did you notice that, Max? After he came back from the dead, that he's a little more on edge, he's a little more direct, he's a little more
Oh yeah, no, we've been referenced. He's uglier. It's been referenced
that's
plenty
debatable.
around I mean, I don't know, man. That's a pretty wicked scar.
He's got the bad boy look for him now, so he's just all stoked about that.
I don't know, man.
He can play that card now.
Come back with an eye patch, yeah.
Maybe. Still not entirely sure that's doing him any favors. However, no, he definitely changed. I don't know how much of that was intentional by Ben, or if it was just given the circumstances of the game. Yeah, I'm curious if he put like thought into it, like, if I die as Jastian, I'm gonna come back more like my father.
No, I think that's a curious point, and it's a weird thing that I've thought about, because I edit all the gameplay before we upload it, so I basically watch it, relive it twice. I know some of you guys also watch them before they go up, but it's built into our, our schedule that I'm watching it again. So I've noticed just like the way we role play, like I don't think he thought about that, but the fact that the storytelling and how he died, how that panned out, like almost changed him subconsciously as Jastian, as playing Jastian. You know what I mean? I don't think it was like necessarily conscious decisions. It was like within the role, he just kind of naturally changed rather than like a thought process of how that would happen.
Yeah, no, that tracks. I mean, Ben, definitely an actor by training in some capacity. And, he's certainly one that will speak to given circumstances of characters and of scenes. And so, his given circumstances went through a pretty big change, right? You could argue that Jastian's arc this whole time has been about like redemption and trying to win his father's love. And
this was like the inciting incident, the lowest point / inciting incident of how is this his villain origin story?
I mean, there's still plenty of campaign left. I guess we'll find out. That's really up to Ben.
That's true. He is in chat, by the way. If you guys want to ask him tidbits of questions, he's chilling in chat for those of you who are in chat. He's not live with us because he's got a wonderful family at home that he is tending to. So shout out Debbie and Ryan. But he is here with us in one way, shape, or form. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Excellent. Well, I'll ask Ben a question then.
We just can't wait for the answer. Let's just.
Oh, fair, right, exactly. Just sit here. Just silence.
Mm-hmm. Ben. Ben.
Hello? Hello?
Is anyone there?
No. It was certainly an interesting session. I can remember. Not exactly the round, but I think it was after I tried to like bang on the window and break the window. I don't know if I ever got to breaking it proper. I think I took a swing at it with the crowbar.
No, you broke it. I remember you broke it.
Like the one going into the tap room, though, to like attempt to get people's help. Because at that point, I was like, okay, we might be able to turn the tides here. Like, we don't have to retreat. But then it became very, very apparent that no, we actually did have to retreat, and we needed to figure out an exit strategy.
And to that point, commendations to you, Illensworth, for inciting the minor illusion that got everyone freaked out, that actually like made a ripple effect through the society, that the Eldroth Fratua, whatever their name is, because I'm not going to get it wrong.
No, I'm actually going to highlight that too. That was good. Good work there, Max. You made your life a lot easier coming back to that place. It's like if you're resourceful, you can win even when you lose. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah, concession wins are a thing.
Oh, totally. And you can have a win that costs you more than it nets you. That's another thing to keep in mind. And I honestly, Max, I also want to highlight this because you did something that is a good player move. You recognized when the party was in over its head. And didn't just try to brute force your way through it. Now, that's a little more art than science sometimes, because it really sucks to bug out from something that you could have won, but it sucks more to wipe the party. And knowing which one of those things is in the cards is a very valuable skill to have.
Well, I thank you for the compliments. I can say that my sensitivities to TPKs have been heightened in the last decade due to an unfortunate choice in our Wednesday game, nigh on probably a decade ago. I actually don't remember how long ago it was.
Shout out to Dave Blake, who's also in chat, chilling.
Oh, what's up, Dave? Dude, I'm still sorry about that chess piece, man. I
was playing that campaign.
I have learned and got better, and you heard it. So
yeah,
it's all just about that growth mindset. Just get a little bit better.
Yeah, that is a finer point for players, because I think Dungeons & Dragons has that idea that like you get in the fight, you have to kill the bad guys, but there is that now that role play is a little more taken over than like way back in the day of D&D of just fighting monsters. Players do have to be attuned to the fact that we are overwhelmed. We need a run to fight another day, and it is certainly something to take to your own table if you have gotten to that overwhelming stage of being like, hey guys, maybe we should cruise out of here and come back some other time.
Well, And I'll offer a corollary, which also shout out Dave Blake, because you're one of the best at this, I think. And Nick, you're doing great with good old Lionel. But having your villains also cheese it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They're in a vulnerable position and about to die. Is how you create like a good, compelling villain. Like there will be a moment of comeuppance that we deliver to Jastian's dad, and it's going to be real sweet because of all the times he's
slipped away. Yep, I would agree. To that point, as far as like the actual death of Jastian, though, like what a storytelling bit that it looked like the same emblem as he was donning, and that it was his dad that did it, not some mook. Like it was. It was an awesome moment that just kind of all came together as far as a perfect death, if you will, for Jastian. As perfect as a death he could have during this campaign, storytelling-wise, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, a flawless assassination was Lionel's plan, and a dramatic death was my plan. So his plan served both of us in that respect.
I believe so. There was a nice compromise there to some extent on both ends, but it made a very good death. I loved it, playing it.
I mean, getting ganked by Cobalt is no fun for anyone.
Also true.
No, it's happened, man. I had a first level barbarian who jumped off a roof into a pack of kobolds, and like I was in death saves before you knew it, man. And that's not how that story went in my head.
Now, I can remember a friend of mine from high school that I used to play D&D with back in Michigan. He had a character that at first level got accidentally killed by a deer. Just a deer that happened to roll a critical hit.
Oberon?
And we never let him live that down.
Yeah, precisely. I'm with you, Max.
Hey, a 20's a 20, and you got however many hit points you have.
Yeah.
Hashtag dumbbell? Too soon?
It's always too soon to rip on Dumbbell.
Whatever. She came back. She's part of the fold now.
She is. She's on our side now. It's awesome. She has a nice pet goat that she's taking care of at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At least I would like to think she's on our side. I suppose that is yet to be seen. But I would like to believe
You're left on good terms.
Yeah. Sure enough. I mean, because
indifferent.
Dumbbell must find self.
I mean, as will become evident further in the story, we certainly do rely on our friends. In fact, man, they came in just in time to give a little revenge, which is nice. That'll be fun to watch.
That they did.
Don't miss the next one. There's going to be some pretty fun sessions coming up, folks. But out the gameplay videos.
To that point, Nick, I would like to say, I appreciate, we can just have a little love fest. I appreciate the way you've been ending the stories. Like, I think that, like most people don't think in like a narrative story structure of like ending their sessions on climactic points necessarily. But like, since we're filming these and we're trying to keep like, hour to hour and a half, like I've certainly appreciated the way that you have adapted your storytelling in the game to sort of like fit those more fun-sized chunks.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. I like to keep folks interested, and it's a nice reminder that if 90 minutes has gone by and nothing super interesting or dramatic has happened, well, we should probably make something interesting and dramatic happen. So, good dungeon master training exercise, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would say something that people could do or exercise at their home table too, to have little snippets like that and have breaks in the session to create maybe some dramatic pauses even just within the night. Because certainly we do, because we usually shoot two episodes per one session that we play. So sometimes ending on one of those dramatic notes helps us come back to the table kind of, motivated and renewed and rejuvenated to keep going and figure out what's about to happen.
And remembering what the hell happened last week.
Well,
also true.
And then I've also, like, long before the channel, you guys know, like, the idea of ending pointed in a direction that you're going to step in, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I never enjoy ending, again, you just got to town, let's call it there, because it's so open-ended.
Yeah.
For the next session. Like I've always appreciated, doing the DM a solid to be like, hey, we're gonna do this next, so you can have that sort of percolating. So I've always been a fan of being pointed in that direction for the next session.
Absolutely,
that's fair enough.
And the change too, like we've had, like obviously Jastian's life was on the balance in 43 to 44, but then like the one we just, I won't no spoilers, but the one we just shot on Monday, it was a cool ending of like a confused of what's going to happen, but not dire straits. If you remember correctly at all, Max.
yeah, similar, but
we're just
completely...
like, huh? And then like, you know what I mean? It's just we don't know what's going to happen, but we're not fighting. But it's still that weird cliffhanger of like intrigue and like, that
curiosity
confusion.
is another form of being engaged with the story.
Yeah.
It's
so
like,
changing it up rather than always ending with you're about to die, let's call it there, or like always ending the same way. You found other ways to end it.
Suddenly a meteor falls out of the sky. Who does it hit? Tune in next week. I don't know. It doesn't always have to be that.
Ragnar punches it.
I mean, he probably would.
It's
100%, just in case it was the moon.
Like I don't know if you guys have read any like Dan Brown books. I haven't read a bunch, but I think read 2 maybe. And I can remember like being on an airplane reading through Da Vinci Code, I think it was. But just seeing like how good he was at ending each chapter on a cliffhanger or on a question or something that piqued curiosity about like, oh, what's going to happen next? And it's a powerful storytelling move.
Yeah, that hopefully keeps our
End
audience
with a
intrigued.
semicolon.
And us intrigued, to be honest, and as players, which is always helpful to keep your players intrigued.
Well, I mean, if I've lost you, I've lost the channel. If we're having a session and you guys don't care what's happening, well, the folks at home aren't going to enjoy that.
That is very true.
Do you,
Max? Have you, like, since we've filmed one and we've had a couple weeks to marinate, do you think that Illinsworth has changed since Jastian's death in a way? Anyway,
but probably not in the way that you're thinking. Maybe
I don't think anything, to be honest. I'm just curious if like you've thought about it and I haven't noticed, kind of thing, or we haven't noticed.
No. What I realized, and it could have been like simultaneous, was that I hadn't called you country or playboy in a really long time, and so like that is something that I have started doing since I made that realization, whether or not it was in and around there. As far as Jastian dying and a change in me character-wise, no, I will say that okay, without spoilers, of like trying to cover like what we since we're a little bit ahead, leaving there's something I almost piped up about getting you guys, having both of you guys get circlets, snug fitting circlets. So when we were on the road, I could just practice pickpocketing sleight of hand off of your head. Because I will tell you, the next time I see Lionel Lysanthier,
he just dinks his head and poof.
I mean, we've seen it twice. We've seen him do that twice. And maybe he's just like super genius, super villain level intellect, and like that's all just misdirection before he bamfs out of there. But I'm gonna try to steal me that thing because I am tired of that man getting away.
Well, it also might not be bamf out necessarily. It could just be turn invisible right away. You know what I mean? It might not be teleportation necessarily right away. But we'll never know. Nick looks menacing at the camera right now of like, ooh.
I've got to sort of choreograph these reactions appropriately because you might be onto something, or you might just be giving me ideas. We'll never know.
I mean, a little bit of both, I'm sure.
The danger. I'm just hoping that the ideas we give you don't put into immediate effect, but you just let us like as one of those connective nodes for your next supervillain.
Of course.
Who has a whole bunch of
I don't do it immediately.
Misdirection tells.
There are... Dang. I sometimes let those marinate a little too long because there's a punchline to a joke that a player set me up for that I never got to say because I kept waiting for just the right time.
And then it passed you by for sure.
Would you like to give it now?
I mean, it's I don't know that it would be the same impact on anyone who didn't play that game.
Of course
but
not.
We had essentially a thief who was impersonating a cleric
Of the Church of England. Oh no. Did we lose Nick?
And the punchline remains.
Yes. I mean, how perfect is that? That is hilarious. And I was just about to mention, there's someone in chat that mentioned Nick as a possible. Pretty sure you killed me with a meteor at some point when we played as kids. I'm assuming that's to Nick, Redis Kate. So it's certainly possible. And if Nick comes back to us, then we'll know possibly what you were talking about, Kate, and also what Nick is up to. Because he's just a nice frozen DM right now on our screen.
Oh, but he looks cheery.
He does. He looks great. It's awesome.
Yeah, like
it's awesome.
like mid laugh. So that's a good way to get frozen.
Michelle is still here, so that's a plus.
Oh, yeah, that's a bonus.
Kate is his little sister, so I'm sure he could talk to that when he comes back after he gives the punchline. So, thanks for watching, Kate. Thanks for tuning in. That's awesome.
No doubt.
Oh! You guys switched. Oh no!
Oh, the baboon!
And everyone literally just watched Nick become Max and Max become Nick.
Oh, because of your templates?
You guys switched. I could probably switch them, but yeah.
I'm Nick Hale. I'm in charge, and I kill my players. I'm so mean.
And I have a terrible internet connection.
Also true.
Also, that's a dreadful impression. It needs work.
So, Nick, while you were gone, I believe your little sister Kate is in and says that you killed her with a meteor.
I saw
at some
it in
point?
the chat. Hi, Kate. How you doing? Nothing I did while still in high school counts against me toward my DM progress. That was me making a whole bunch of mistakes when I was still young and getting it out of my system.
That very much so. Thank you, Kate, because now we get to reap the benefits of all of those learned lessons that he's learned through all that. So
that's true. You've done a service to everyone I've DM'd since then.
Do you recall killing your little sister with a meteor?
It sounds like exactly the sort of thing I would do, but I can't remember exactly when. I think that there were a couple of proto D&D role-playing exercises between me, my sister, and my kid cousins that I just don't remember well. I think a few of them were just literally video games that I had enjoyed, which is a habit I do sparingly now, adapting video games I enjoyed into D&D games.
I mean, I enjoyed the one I got to partake in.
Oh yeah, halfway. Did we make it halfway through that?
Thereabouts.
Ooh, nice. So I'm curious, Nick, because you are kind of you come from that. I would say, I don't mean to presume, but that narrative school of storytelling and dungeon mastering, where you want to make a good story. And so where does permanent character death fall in on that spectrum with you?
And we lost him again.
Oh. Well, never mind.
Apparently. But I did get the nameplates fixed, so that's a plus.
Oh, cool. Oh, good job. On the fly.
Yeah. I like to, yeah. I'm doing a lot of things in the back. Well, not a lot, but in the background. We'll see what happens.
Tony's so important, doing all the things in the background.
No. Ben missed the doppelganger. He had to change a diaper, and he missed the switcheroo. So he feels, yeah. What did you ask, Nick?
Oh, about his thoughts on character death, because he comes from that narrative school of dungeon mastering.
Instead of the maniacal or the malevolent.
Yes, the mustache twisting school of dungeon mastering.
Yes. I mean, you're back again. We'll see how long this lasts. But God bless technology.
Just as excited as everyone else to see the outcome.
Aren't we all? So
sneak attack. Mm-hmm. So Nick, did you hear my question at all before you?
I heard the first part of your question.
Okay.
We're narrative, from a narrative perspective, how do I feel about
Character death.
and even
Yeah.
permanent? So, like the first thing that I think about when I think about permadeath in games, especially, is what does the group as a whole think about it? Permadeath is not something I would feel comfortable springing on a group that didn't expect it. And that's, I think, a system that has served me and my Dungeon Master friends pretty well. I've been through a couple of games where, like, the DM has just felt compelled to set us aside at session 0 and say, yeah, there's some stuff in this adventure that might feel kind of nonsense, that might just hit you below the belt and take away cool stuff that your character has, or even kill you permanently for sticking your hand in the wrong room. Like my friend, when he well, never mind. But in any event, like, the party should be on the same page as the DM as far as permadeath is concerned, because people get really emotionally attached to their characters.
For sure.
Another thing about, like, character death in general is that I think it can serve a story very well, but that it isn't all that much fun when it isn't serving a story. I like death to have meaning. I like it to have emotional weight. Even though this is a game for silly people who throw math rocks all night, but I mean, you can get really emotionally invested in that, and the story can be really powerful. So I treat it as I would any artistic project. And openness to finding new stuff as I go, and death is all part of that.
Yeah.
I hope I was on for a full answer.
I would say 98%. So
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah, a little,
Cool.
little crackly. But no, I think your point about that being, setting those expectations out, like, up front and being clear about those are pretty important, right? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen people storm off in tears when their characters have died. Certainly not recently. That was more of like a middle school type thing. But I could,
Sure.
I mean, I've played the game with people who I think might not take their character dying all that well.
Sure.
And I get it, man. Like, in order to have a good character, like, you've got to invest part of yourself, I feel like.
Sure.
Yeah, and I know we've
You
talked
have to,
about
right?
it as a possibility in Into the Fae, and then we've also talked about it as a we re-talked about it again going into Beyond the Fae, since we were going off book, if you will, and where these characters are actually ended up going. So that's certainly on the table for us as far as our discussion. I think, narratively speaking, it's all about the payoff, right? A death that means something, even if it's to our character, is still going to be the payoff that you can at least be at peace with how it died, and that it, told the story that it did.
Did we discuss that? I have zero recollection of either of those discussions. Can we die?
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, it turns out you can.
Oh, cool. Good to know.
in the game and in real life. Which that would, player death is different than character death, folks. Let's not sure how we deal with that one.
Much more
I
permanent.
would. It would have to be one hell of a payoff for me to consider that part of my story.
Player death?
100%.
Yeah, I feel like we might get shut down if we start taking a turn in that direction.
You're not wrong.
Nick, you've been telling stories for a while. Tony, you've been telling stories and playing stories for a while. I mean, sometimes you get to a point with your character or you're just kind of over it. You're like, I'm ready for something new. Where do you fit in with, like, retiring a character to become an NPC in the world?
Well, being a fan of the Song of Ice and Fire books has taught me that not every character gets a resolution, or at least not everyone that we imagine. So I am 100% in favor of players doing the things that makes the game fun for them. And if changing up the character is what's needed, it's something I would prefer a player do sparingly. I just to have some sort of narrative cohesion. But I've never like had somebody say, "Hey, this character is just not working out the way I imagined. Would you mind if we found something else?" I've never said no to that, I don't think. And I don't think that I would unless I had a really, really good reason not to. But it's interesting because this is a process that tends to happen regardless with my gaming. It's that the stories and to even a big extent, the characters, they belong to everybody in the group, not just me. So like seamlessly, like I can take a character that I really enjoyed and I can make that character an NPC and I can make that fun. I can make that satisfying and I can give that character the ending I think they deserve if I want to. Or we can find a new ending together. And that's one of the most fun things about Dungeons & Dragons for me. It's just the sheer collaborative nature of the art that you can create when you have a few people who are in sync and have who are all invested in the stories that we're telling. Love it.
100%. Did you have
Once again, I hope my entire ramble was
it did.
Intelligible for the folks at home.
It was. I mean, on our end it was. So pretty sure it was on everybody else's end.
Sounded great. Hard to disagree with, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I was kind of sitting here as you were speaking, like imagining you, like me coming to you and just being like, "Yeah, man, I'm just not really having a lot of fun with this character anymore." And you just been like, "Fuck you!" Like, "No, you can't switch. You can't have fun playing this game with us." Like, that's just very out of character.
Yeah.
For the person I know, so doesn't surprise me to hear you say that.
For sure. I think I would have a hard time with Gord if he died. Number one, I really like him. The other character that I really enjoyed playing in a very interesting situation was the Dervish dancer I played in another Nick campaign on our Wednesday nights. I really liked her. But then all the other characters I played, I think I've only played 5 total, including Gord. The other 2 or 3 didn't really do much for me, but I was a lot more mechanically based when I started, though, just playing the D&D tactical game essentially and fighting monsters. So with that Dervish dancer, I think her name was Kiara, and with Gord, I've immersed myself more in the character.
So now, having been privy to both of those characters, both had a vocal affectation, if you will. So is there something about like playing with your speaking voice you think that might, like, there's just that level of involvement, of it, like extra engagement that
it very well could be. I do have to say sorry to the live chat real quick, because Nick did dip out and he'll dip back, but Max is now a little bit bigger and in Nick's square, so he will be back, I promise. But it'll take too much on the back end to fix at the moment, so we'll just hope Nick comes back. But yeah, I mean, as far as that's concerned, I think what does it for me, and maybe it's voice based, I guess, the 2 that I've done, and maybe that's the first step, but it's just having like a niche, like having with that character, the Dervish dancer, it was like I want her to have like a secret and have like something that people don't really know, and I thought that would help me play her. And it's certainly different. It certainly did. Yes, a secret. Nick is back.
And that's why you should never tickle a bugbear. What'd I miss?
Yeah, tickling a bugbear would be not great.
Not much. We were talking. Tony was talking about the characters he's been attached to that he would have a hard time.
And they're all vocal based, which Max pointed out, which is interesting to me.
Let go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think Illinsworth is great, and like usually, most of my characters are a direct response to the character before. So
I would argue I'm kind of in the same realm.
Like specifically, like, so for 3.5, because this is where it's the most like prescient for me. Like if I have a character who's terrible at will saves, then you best believe the next character I have is gonna be real good at will saves, right? Like I'm just tired. I get tired of being beaten by the same thing for too much time.
Or if you're arranged for a whole campaign, you might want to be in the shit or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta mix it up, right? I mean, That's one of the just really fun and amazing things about Dungeons and Dragons is there's so many different ways you can make fun and interesting characters, and so many different things you can do with those characters. I love changing it up. I mean, I make characters all the time just for fun. And that now I've got some on the back burner.
Yeah, for NPCs or for anything, anything in the future that you end up playing. Michelle says that she was, for players out there, afraid to use an accent, but with Bathilda, she had a blast with it. So, as we,
that's
Nick could probably talk to that more because it is his wife, Michelle, who's in chat.
Yeah, Michelle, Bathilda's great, and we love her. It's just a thing that kind of happens in my game groups in particular. I don't know about everybody else's table, but I learned at the feet of my father, and in my father's games we do silly accents. So I just brought that to my games, and it's fun. If you haven't done silly accent characters, you should try it. It doesn't just, don't impersonate an accent from a background that somebody at the table has in real life. Because, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be tone deaf with it.
Gord is the first one that I've really had an accent with. I know Kiara was vocally impaired, if you will. So an accent to speak, but it was the first time that I even tried out one around a table was with Gord / on camera. So, and it's gone overwhelmingly well, actually, from a personal standpoint and from a playing standpoint or a meta standpoint. So I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. In all the years and all the groups that I played with, it wasn't until possibly when you joined the fold, Nick, that accents ever came around the table that I can remember. And so I was kind of taken aback when I stepped in to the Manual of the Plains campaign, just because everyone
everybody was doing them.
Right.
And maybe that's a Hale-ism. That's my Bloodlines contribution to the game. But no, it's fun, and it's the sort of thing that a lot of people wouldn't think to do. Wouldn't just try that out of the blue, and that's like there's a concept I heard it in the context of originally of business, where there's enormous value in being the first person to try something weird, and because that's how you find new fun things. They're always going to seem weird at first, and then you have the key component to that is you get what's called a first follower. The first person who hears you do the silly accent and then responds with a silly accent of their own or a silly character voice of their own. And once that first follower comes in, then you've got something fun happening at the table. Now it's just not one crazy person, doing a crazy accent. So, that's just a little food for thought. I know we have, I don't know why you're watching this channel if it's not for the D&D content. It's certainly not for my handsome face. But try that at your tables. It's just there's something freeing about giving yourself permission to be silly and enjoying somebody else's silliness and adding your own brand to it.
I will say too, so hearing you speak of that, I'm reminded of the script we put together about, how to have fun playing. And the idea, one of your big points, Nick, was about, be the first person at the table to crack a terrible joke, regardless of how unfunny it is. Just being the willingness to take that step to add levity and lighten the mood. Even if you don't, get the laughs that you want, you've at least set the stage for everyone else and, contributed to when that eruption does happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I just kind of clicked into my mind, being at a LayerCon, and I think all of us did some sort of accent during that game, interestingly enough. And I don't know if that was on the fly kind of from all of us, because it was kind of an on the fly sort of thing in general, or if that was thought about beforehand. I'm not sure, but we all ended up actually doing something, which I think, honestly, Max, that was the first time I've ever heard you attempt or do accent for all the years I've played with you.
Through and through.
And it was great. He was awesome. Mr. Bones was legit.
Mr. Bones was rad. Yeah, no, that was definitely the first time. In fact, I was actually just thinking about this and kind of put this into words yesterday or even today, possibly. But my biggest hang up with doing an accent for D&D has been like with consistency.
There goes Nick again, but that's okay.
Yeah,
keep going.
That's all right. Because like, you know, being able to like nail that accent week in, week out, week in, week out, week in, week out. For some reason, that's far more daunting to me than pulling off something for like a 5-hour one-off. And I will also say that, you know, it was LairCon and like we were really excited to be able to do that with Luke. And so I just wanted to make sure to bring my A game. And that's what that looks like, I guess.
Absolutely. And I certainly think we all did a very good job of bringing our A game during that game. We had a lot of fun.
There was a lot of laughs. And I mean,
great.
And like he did a great job with setting that tone, man. You know, like I'm trying to think of DMs that I've played with who spent at least as much of the session standing as sitting, if not more. And he might be the only one. But there's something about like the energy that he put out that like it was good. Like it was cool. It set that tone. I was like, all right, this is what this is going to be. Like, okay, we can do this.
Yeah.
Like, let's have some fun.
That's pretty funny. I'm reading some of the chats that are coming through, and Kate's talking about how Nick and her dad just made it so that it's all about fun around the table. But she was saying that her first character that she remembers playing was based around telling her dad that she wanted to play a chinchilla. And he made it happen. I'm like, yeah, that's the way to do it. As far as DMs are concerned too, if your player has an idea and you can make it work, certainly add, you know, yes and, as we always like to say around the table, of, you know, give it some boundaries and give it some flavor or whatever that you need to do, but always have that space for the creative that people are trying to do. So
right. Well, it goes back to like that, like, you know, if a player comes to you and they're like, hey, I'm not having fun with my character anymore. Like similarly, like steps should be taken to ensure that everyone has fun in a tactful way. Like nobody should get to do something that breaks the game.
Right.
But at the same time, like it is a game. We play this to have fun with our friends, to exercise our imaginations and hang out.
And if they're not getting exercise in the way that is fun for you, then something should change so that you can stay in the group and continue to have fun.
Yeah. So on the subject of accents, where did you come up with Gord's?
Oh, interesting.
Country.
So, Gord, his origin story is kind of like, I don't know. I was kind of forced is the wrong word, but I felt compelled to be more of a vocal player at our table for PeakD&D because there's only 3 of us, and what I'm used to as far as our personal like games are concerned is like Wednesday nights with 8 to 10 to 12, which is another reason why I chose Kiara as a character without a voice. She was mute, and I was like, there's too many voices, I don't want to be one of them, so I'm just gonna write that into the character. As far as Gord is concerned, I've never played a naive character, because I've always thought tactically, and I've always thought, hey, Ed Robinson is here. What's happening,
up,
buddy? I've always thought tactically and more like a what's it called, combat based, so kind of meta, I guess. And I've never played a naive character where I know the meta, but I make character choices that fit him but don't make it unfun for the rest of the table or break the game in any sort of way, but just playing in that space of naivety. And I don't know why, but like good old Southern boy just came to mind, and I just thought it would be fun to play that kind of character. And I don't know, good old Southern, I guess, is kind of a stereotype, which to some extent in D&D embrace your stereotypes to some extent, because then it leads to fun characters. But since I made him Southern and like a farmer, it's kind of how that perpetuated I should probably do a voice and not just my own. So it's kind of forced in a way, but not forced in a way.
Right, but like, did you steal your concept of Southern farmer, good old boy, from like a piece of media or like
No,
something you
just
heard
kind of-
somewhere, or just in your mind you were like, this
Not
is
necessarily.
what Gord sounds like.
Yeah, I would say so. This is
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the best Southern accent I could do. And I actually, to be fair, before I even started filming, I had a couple of trips down to Denver that I remember that I just talked to myself in a Southern accent, just to get like prepared and get those muscles moving. Kind of like you were saying, like it's daunting to think that every session you should bring out the accent, and that's almost as daunting and anxiety driven than playing the character itself. So I tried to personally prepare of just like being able and willing to do it on my own first, and then being so it's more natural when it came out at the table.
Some great advice that I heard on character voices came from the dudes who create
Oh
Venture
yeah,
Brothers.
we are getting a rating party from the
Oh, sweet.
from Luke's channel, from the DM layer. So hello everybody.
Oh, Brad, it's good to be rated. But
We
they were
miss you
talking
too,
like,
Goliath
hey, welcome.
Cleric.
character voices. Just pick a celebrity. Just pick your worst celebrity impersonation.
Oh, there you
and
go. Yeah.
let that role as a voice. Like owning
For
the
sure.
fact that it's totally terrible. Like it's not supposed to be good. But
A recurring theme I have in some of my games is that any accent I can't do without being racist is actually Sean Connery playing that character, because Sean Connery has only one accent, and it's Sean Connery.
Precisely.
like-
Absolutely.
Christopher Walken, right? Like there's not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage is popular.
Also true. Thank you, Ed Robinson. He's given us some love in the chat, telling all the raiders to
Thank you, Ed.
stick around. Yeah, welcome
folks from
raiding
the
party.
area, welcome.
We've just
Yeah.
been talking about character death and changing characters and how to make characters fun at the table, and it's been a really compelling. I don't know. I've had a lot of fun talking with you guys about all this.
Yeah, I like geeking
So-
out about this stuff, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, we got some people. So hi Penguin Butt, hi Goliath Cleric. Good to see you guys. Thanks for hopping in on the raiding party. We miss you
Yeah.
guys too from LayerCon.
Yeah, super rad. We were just talking about the LayerCon game and like accents and all of that good
Yeah.
stuff. So
Was
right
yours,
on top.
Nick? Was yours pre-planned, or did you just kind of throw it on at LayerCon, or did you just kind of
Oh,
throw it
that
up
accent? No, that accent was based on an accent a friend did, much better than me, in a campaign that we played together. I found myself a dwarf cleric and thought, this should be Yord's cousin.
there? No, for sure.
So I kind of rolled with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That's a perfect.
Yeah.
That's it doesn't have to be a bad celebrity accent. You can do a bad impersonation of
Of
your
your
friend's
friends.
accent. I'm like, I could do a terrible
I'm
Gord
in
for
favor
I
of
can't
stealing
wait.
when
I
it
can't
comes
wait
to
for the
D&D.
terrible
Just
gourd.
Steal accent, steal character idea, steal everything. That's fun.
Yeah, and then make it yours.
Yeah. As far as accents are concerned, then I kind of want to turn the tables a little bit to the DM side, because a lot of DMs, not all, and you certainly don't need accents in order to have your game fun, but changing them up a little bit to what's it called, to kind of trigger your players of who they're talking to.
Sure.
How does that work for you, Nick? Is it easy, hard? I know last session we got you stuck in what was it between?
No, I try to
Russian
avoid a situation
and
where I'm
Irish or
talking
something?
with two separate accents at myself, but it does happen on occasion, and you just kind of roll with it. And if you mess up, you give a little shrug and a smirk, and that's all. That's all it really needs, I think.
Yeah.
It's like people appreciate that you're doing voices. That's going an extra little bit, I think.
Yeah, and I think it helps players trigger who they're talking to some extent, of like, oh, this is a different person than my DM, number one, and it's also a different person than, Balaga over there, or Lionel Lysanthier over there, or like it's somebody different. So I think it helps immerse your players in the game as well, so storytelling can happen in a more natural
Certainly
way.
can, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like immersion is the key word there, right? Like if you can, it's more easy if there's an accent to like lose yourself in the story, to focus on that moment, on what's happening around the table, and like ultimately, it's like that focus that I think really is what makes good games, right? Like if you can get a group that is collectively focused on the game, which is ever more impossible, right? Like these days with technology and everything, right? But there's something that's like so pristine and awesome about that group attention and focus that, like, to me, that's where the magic really is.
Absolutely. And I think we all give that to each other, I think, around our table, which I think is great about our group. Not just gameplay, but just like literally just playing games with you guys, whether we're filming them or not. I've certainly noticed that with just us as a group in general of people when we play games.
That's the magic, right? It's just getting everybody's irreplaceable weirdness to harmonize with everybody else's irreplaceable weirdness. It's really something special when you've got it going, and that's what keeps people playing groups, playing games with the same group of dorks for decades or more.
Through and through, and like the game acts as such a good conduit, like such a good funnel for. Like giving that, a band on stage, I'm sure is similar. Like, obviously there's teams on fields of competition, but I don't know. It's a lot easier to click, clack, math rocks around a table with my friends and find that experience there.
Yeah. You don't really have to try out for that. So that's nice. Lower barrier to entry.
Very true. Am I the only one in the group that's tried out for sports and tried out for bands? I guess Ben and Nick, they've tried out for dramas and plays. I guess there's a
called an audition when an
audition. There you go. That's what it's called. Thank you I forgot the name.
Shout out Folk Jam 99. Ben was definitely in a college band. I have never been in a band. And I did try out for some like theater auditions, that would be.
Yeah.
But I think once there was like cuts in youth sports, that's when I cut.
That's when I cut out of theater, to be honest, was when there were auditions. In middle school, I was in 2 plays, I think. But then high school was, I just had to show up to the meeting in middle school, and they're like, "Cool, read this part. That's you now." I'm like, word.
That's how it is in a lot of drama clubs.
But then in high school, they were like, "We're having auditions." I was like, "Peace out."
I got to be in my senior musical because I'm a guy, and that's the only reason.
Hooray. Technically, I did try out for hosting air band. That was pretty fun.
Oh.
That was actually a lot of fun.
That's kind of like both combined.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, band / I was the MC of our air band. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
It was a good time. But I don't know, guys. We've been chatting away for 75 minutes, and I think.
Oh wow.
So
I was here for some of those minutes.
You were here for 90% of those minutes.
Before we get out of here, can you please deliver the punchline?
Oh yeah, the original punchline that we were asked.
Allah Damara doesn't exist in this world. See, it's not great.
It paid off for somebody in chat somewhere in the Twitter sphere, I'm sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody who tuned in to this Talking Phase / talking about characters and players and how to have a lot more fun on the table. Thank you, DM Layer, Goliath Cleric, Penguin Butt, Ed Robinson, and everybody who, Amber S, I saw you in there as well. Everyone who rated us from the the DM Layer's channel. He had a stream last night. If you aren't following him, go check him out too. He's great. And I hope you guys stick around for another stream. I think we're going to do this every other week instead of our Talking Fae, but a little bit to be continued or to be determined. But we will certainly... I think we're going to stream in 2 weeks. So every other week, you guys can check us out on Wednesday, and we will tweet it out, and we'll have it set up on YouTube so you guys can check it out. So thanks again, everybody who was around, and we hope to see you in the next 2 weeks.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, it was fun.